Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Talking Tactics Daily. My name is Daniel Tiluk. Remember to follow the actual Talking Tactics podcast wherever you listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Have Hope, myself, and Carl Anka are sure to be there sometime this week talking about all the things that have transpired over the weekend and things that are sure to happen in midweek. I want to get in this daily brief, hopefully, while the power is still on. There's a bit of an ice storm outside, so we'll see how long the power lasts. But it hasn't been too bad. Although we live on a hill and people are just getting stuck. Like their cars can't go up the hills. It's just crazy. But in any event, um, let's talk about it, man. So yesterday we discussed Manchester United playing Arsenal, and 99.9999% of people did not give Manchester United a chance to win, much less get a point. I thought maybe best circumstance Manchester United could get a point, a draw 2-2. I was thinking, but I wasn't. If you asked me like bet on it, that would not have been the bet that I would have given, and I still would have been wrong. But I did think Manchester United could, get something, but a win at the Emirates, I never had that as a part of my kind of analysis or visit of the game. But they came through. I mean, they were unfortunate to go down in the way that they did. Lisandro Martinez scores an unfortunate own goal. So they go down 1-0. Arsenal and own goal this season are best friends. And then they make a bad mistake in the back, which has been something that Arsenal have been going through, I don't know, the past month, 2 months maybe. They're just making uncharacteristic mistakes at the back. Silly back pass from Zubamendi, I think it was, that's latched on by Mbeumo. And Mbeumo takes his time to beat Raya, but he gets there in the end and he beats Raya. Raya even gets a hand to the ball, but it's not a strong enough hand. And Manchester United equalize. What's the second goal? Dorgu. Dorgu. Very, very good combination play between Dorgu and Bruno Fernandes. Just 1-2, 1-2. I feel like in those situations, when it's like a really, really good combination play, or somebody gives like a really good through pass or something, there's pressure on the person who's going to shoot the ball to at least make this nice combination that we've done good. And Dorgu came up with an exceptional strike. I thought it was very interesting that in the week leading up to this game, Casemiro, it was announced that he's going to be leaving Manchester United at the end of the contract, and into the game without commentary on, one of the websites. Let me not discuss it, but watching with like the color commentary or commentator, I'm watching it, but you had the ambiance of the crowd. I wish every television broadcast provided that people to the game with the ambiance and the atmosphere of the stadium, but without sometimes the silly, racist commentary that comes out of people with pace and power and all that. But one of the when you're not commentary is the thing over top of the celebration. So Dorgu runs to the Manchester United fans. It's something that was very interesting, and maybe this was picked up on broadcasts that had color commentary or just general. But Casemiro tells Dorgu, enjoy it, enjoy the moment. And I think as somebody who's an occasional goal scorer in Casemiro, who sometimes pops up with really important goals or has in his career, certainly for Real Madrid, occasionally for Manchester United, but obviously they haven't been in a moment where they'd be in matches that mean that much. I think it's very, very sage of the old veteran to tell the young player, it's very rare that you're going to score a goal like that in a stadium in a moment like this that means something to everybody that was in the stadium, because we obviously know that Manchester United and Arsenal are super rivals. So for him to have the presence of mind and to hug the youngsters, tell them enjoy it, I thought that was really cool, kind of old school. You're kind of the OG moment, just like look around you and enjoy this moment. Like don't let it pass you by that you've just done something incredible. So Dorgu has a goal of the season candidate. Arsenal, in their way, find an equalizer off a set piece, off a corner kick. Saka puts in a great corner again, and it just causes so much chaos. I said this last season, and I've heard different pundits say it since, but not enough people ask Arsenal questions on corner kicks. They lend Arsenal exactly what they want, which is unpredictability in the box. Every man, woman, and child from Manchester United are defending that set piece. Everybody except Lamins, who's in the goal on the opposite side, is in the box trying to protect this Saka delivery, or on the other side, a Rice delivery. Wouldn't it make more sense? Oh no, sorry, everybody except Raya is there. It's like, couldn't we find a way to thin this out for Lemons, for our goalkeeper? Could we find a way to maybe get 2, 3, 4 of their instead of the 1 or 2 that they have kind of protecting the 18-yard box or protecting the counterattack with Raya at midfield? Couldn't we ask more questions of these set pieces? And instead, they have everybody in the box, all 11 players, no outlet. And it lends itself to chaos, and Arsenal thrive on that chaos because they have players who are just aerially dominant, physically dominant to basically everybody they play. So I would think it would make a lot of sense if you have Cunha, Diallo, Ahmad, maybe not Bruno, because Bruno's relatively tall for a footballer. He seems like 5'9", 5'10", so maybe he could be useful on the set piece. But if you have fast dudes, Dorgu, put 3 at midfield. And Arsenal will respond to that by taking at least 2 of their defenders to where they're not outmanned 3-2 plus a goalkeeper. They'll definitely want to have numbers back there. And once you thin the box out, you then give your 6'6", 6'7" goalie room to operate. He couldn't get to the ball. And you know the delivery is going to be good, so the goalie is going to need kind of the goalie is going to need space. Otherwise, he's just going to be flapping at things, and that's not what you want. So it does annoy me how people are defend Arsenal set pieces. Now, obviously, you're going to be fighting fire with fire. But yeah, I'd rather do that. Ask Arsenal more questions. Make them think about how much are we committing to this set piece. And I think you'd find in most instances, I've seen it in the Champions League. Last season, maybe they played Olympiacos or Monaco, some team that wears white and red. They played them, and they did it, and the goalie caught basically every corner because it's just Arsenal aren't dumb. They're not going to let you just get a counterattack just because they have a set piece. That's not going to happen. So, in any event, very scuffy goal. Not good. Did it cross the line? Did it not cross the line? Goal line technology obviously says it did cross the line. The referee points to the spot, says it's a goal, and it's like, damn, Arsenal are really gonna again scam their way at least to not losing this game. They'd drawn their previous 2 games. I'm forgetting who they played. They played Forest and Liverpool, I think. So they dropped 4 points of 6, and you thought, well, maybe they could get a good point against what seems to be a very dangerous club. But then Cunha, almost immediately after Arsenal score, Manchester United have a good sequence of play. I think it's, again, Bruno who taps to Dorgu. No, Kobe Mainoo, who's actually playing in positions that are good for him. He finds Cunha, and Cunha just takes the ball in the half space, turns, and unleashes a really, really good shot bent around, I want to say, Gabriel. He kind of uses Gabriel as a post from which to curve the ball, so Raya's a bit unsighted. The ball goes into the bottom corner. Everybody's celebrating crazy, and Arsenal weren't able to find an equalizer. So Manchester United win 3-2. That is after beating Manchester City quite handedly and convincingly at Old Trafford. So I suppose the question that's on the table is, how good is Carrick? Because it does feel like we've been here before, doesn't it? Manchester United sack a Portuguese manager. Then they bring a former great of the club in, and as an interim. But he finds success somehow. And now they're kind of in this, do we really, are we going to hand the keys to Michael Carrick, like on a permanent basis? I don't think that would be the worst idea, but I do think it would be rash for them to decide now. In the same way, after Manchester United beat PSG with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in charge, the penalty shootout or some penalty that happened with goal, I want to say, and the meme where Rashford is patting Mbappe on the head, like all of that kind of stuff that led to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting the permanent job. Was Ole the right guy? In the end, no. But if you look at like the win percentages and different things like that, he has, I think, the third or second best since Sir Alex. Mourinho's number one. I think Ole might be next. And then Van Gaal. So, worked out in a sense. It's just that he didn't take Manchester United to the place that they should be, which is fighting for the league. Michael Carrick has had 2 games against Manchester City and Arsenal. I think the most important thing to take away from these 2 games, if you're kind of deducing, is this the person that should take us forward? The most important thing you should want to know is we're watching them, Manchester United that is, play their last 2 Premier League games against teams who don't really respect them. And not in a disrespectful sense, but in a footballing sense. Manchester City's not going to sit back and defend, even though they had no defenders. Arsenal are not going to sit back and defend. They're going to try to play their game. Obviously, it looks disgusting, and we'll get to that, because their football isn't really good enough at the moment. But Arsenal have objectives. Arsenal have footballing ideals and principles that they're trying to implement on the pitch, and that, for most of the time, connotates having the ball. Same with Manchester City. So Manchester United are playing against teams in these last 2 games that Manchester United are not necessarily the focus. The football is the focus. I want to see what this looks like when Manchester United are forced to play against teams who do respect them, who are thinking about how Manchester United can hurt them, who are conceiving kind of, we want to play on the counter. We're going to give Manchester United the ball. We're going to restrict space, and we're going to see what this team can do to us. And if they can't harm us, then we can maybe hit them on the break. That's going to be most of the games that Manchester United play in a calendar year, or just in a season. They're not going to be playing against the Manchester Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, the Chelseas. Those games are few and far between. Most of the games are going to be Wolves, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Brighton. Obviously, those teams these days tend to want to try to play football, but when you play Sunderland or somebody like that, they're not going to give you space freely. So that's the next hurdle. We know that Manchester United can play when the game is open, and they have players who can definitely hurt you, in Acuna, in Mbeumo, in Ahmad, in Kobe Mainoo when he plays, Bruno Fernandes, obviously. Can they play in the tighter spaces? Let's say they play Newcastle, and Newcastle just decide, not today. We're going to make this very tough and very difficult. Does Carrick and Steve Holland, who I think is very, very important in this particular Manchester United iteration, he's a coach who obviously coached with Southgate in England and helped England have their best spell since I don't know when, perhaps ever, if you look at their major competition resume. And Steve Holland is somebody who was at Chelsea for maybe almost 20 years, from 2009 to I want to say 2016-17, their last title win with Antonio Conte. So 17 years with Chelsea, won so many leagues, was retained by almost every manager. He's just somebody who has a very good grasp, certainly of the English game, in the Premier League in particular. He's a very handy person to have at your disposal, who's doing the coaching and the tactical work and just giving ideas here and there. How does this look against teams that are a bit more conservative in their approach when they see Manchester United pull their bus into their stadium or go to Old Trafford? Like, what is that game going to look like? That would be the next step. That'll be like the kind of confirmation for me that Carrick is somebody who you should fully trust. Um, but still, you could say Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim saw the gamut and wasn't able to do it in these moments. So at least you have somebody or a kind of a committee that's able to come up with some good things and some good ideas that can really hurt top teams. Speaking of top teams, Arsenal have now dropped 7 points of their last 9. Were it not for the ineptitude of the Premier League in its current iteration, last season I think Liverpool were more or less they jogged the league by the end. It seems as if, excuse me, very dry air because everybody has the heat on, so forgive me. But it last season wasn't really competitive in that way. City and Arsenal did their best to push Liverpool, but we all knew, certainly by this time, that Liverpool were the odds-on favorite to win the league. I think we're in that place again, where you can drop 7 out of 9 points in January, and the table, we'll get to it, but it doesn't look too bad. I think they now have a 4-point lead. They could have really put this beyond doubt. If you add those 7 points to their total and you see what Manchester City haven't been able to do in recent form up until you get to play Wolves, they could have been out of sight. Or Aston Villa are your closest competitor or something like that. Who knows? Arsenal are missing the opportunity to make this the cakewalk that it should be. But at the end of the day, you just need to win either on goal difference or by a point, And I think Arsenal are going to have enough in the tank to get it done. But the type of football that they're playing is kind of disgusting. Not even kind of disgusting. I don't even need to couch it. It is disgusting. It's gross football. It's heavily reliant on set pieces and physicality. It's like the pendulum has swung too far in that direction of this kind of long throw, corners, set pieces, put it in the mixer. It's gone too far in that direction. And Arteta has to find a better balance of dominating the ball, but dominating it with purpose. And not just kind of slowing the game down, being tepid, waiting for a foul, waiting for a free kick, waiting for a set piece, waiting for a throw. It's just like, there's too much of that. It's too cagey when you have players who can impose themselves on these games. Give them the confidence to do that. And it feels like the last 10 minutes, the last 15 minutes, last quarter of an hour of a game, let's say, that's when we're ready to play. That's when we'll put on Madueke and Eze and Trossard and these dudes that can just help us do something. They can just assist Saka and whoever else in the footballing stuff that they're trying to do. But before then, it's like, it's very much tilted towards the Zubamendi, the Rice style of game, which is physical, not giving anything away, not being cheap, just being very resolute. But it's like, that's fine. And I think that will lend them success in the Champions League whenever they have to play a PSG or a Real Madrid or one of the Premier League teams that knows them better. I think in those kind of ties, what's the word? 2-leg ties. Their defensive solidity and just waiting for you to make a mistake, that will bode well. But in the league form, we've seen it with Manchester City. You have to impose the Pep Guardiola teams of the past, 6-7 years, at when, Kevin De Bruyne, etc. They don't for you. They just make them want the game to be, and it feels maybe Arsenal are want it, but it does feel like, obviously we have in those, but or we were maybe not conscious of how these games were going, but these teams, before Wenger, 1-0 to the Arsenal and all that kind of stuff, it feels like a bit like that, like they're to that, and I feel their team is far better than kind of retrograde style of play. It's just like, you can be better and win this league in style rather than by default. with just one quick word. Chelsea should probably be building this team through Estevao. I know he's like a teenager, can't drive, can't drink, can't do whatever. This boy, this is a footballer, okay? And Chelsea, I can't tell a huge difference. I was going to call him Roy Sr. Rosenior ball and Maresca ball, it all feels the same 4-2-3-1. It is what it is. But something that Maresca didn't do enough was play, and I was going to call him Enzo, was play Estevao from the start. And the goal that he scored, he just seemed to, like, it was the person that he was going up against. Like, he just had more pace than him. But the way that he dribbled ever more to his left, I thought he kind of messed up his opportunity. But then he cut it across Dean Henderson and scored a really good goal. João Pedro scored to open up the second half. Enzo Fernandez scored from the penalty spot. Stupid penalty to give away from Crystal Palace. And for Crystal Palace, it kind of just feels like I don't know where this is going anymore. You give up Eze, you give up Gehi in a matter of 6 months. Your manager's now gone. It just kind of feels like what is the point of Crystal Palace at this point? Is it just to make up numbers, or y'all actually trying to do stuff in Europe? Like, what is it? So once you score that first goal against Crystal Palace, I feel like it's a bit strange. It was good to see Ismail Assar again after his AFCON duties with Senegal. But I just wanted to mention a quick word, even though I watched the game. Just a quick word. It's on my mom's office supplies. On come on, where's the thing? There's the thing on Chelsea and Estevao, who I think, shout out to Cole Palmer and those guys. But if Cole Palmer wants to go to Manchester United or whatever it is, like, bro, Estevao's not a bad player to try this new project around. So as we see the table, it's a 4-point lead, which is closer than it should be with 15 games to go. So heavily leaning towards Arsenal still, but you can't be dropping that many points. But as you can see, I guess the results on the right of the table are more recent. Nobody's putting a run together. I mean, the best is Manchester United, who've won their last 2. Chelsea have won their last 2. But nobody's putting in that, 3 in a row, 4 in a row, 5 in a row. That would have caught up the gap. Like, Aston Villa aren't doing it. They've lost 2 and drawn 1. Manchester City drew 3, lost 1. So if Manchester City were able to actually win the games that they should be, that kind of traditional Pep Guardiola at the end of a season or middle of the season, they'd be on top of the league. A lot of different conversations about the future of Mikel Arteta and whether he's to lead this Arsenal project to the title that they haven't won too far. Instead, we're in this weird kind of story. we're nowhere yet somewhere. It's very strange. So we'll see what it's like going at the end of Feb. And I think Manchester and Arsenal in April, if I looked it up correctly. So maybe there'll still be something to play for by April. We can hope. Another quick word, because I really need to get out of here. Yamal scored a great goal today. Scissor kick against Oviedo. We were right. They won by at least 2. It was 3-0 against Oviedo. Just a quick word for Lamine Yamal. I mean, I was talking about Estevao earlier, but Lamine Yamal is that guy. By the way, is he getting tall? Or have I just noticed this? But yeah, it feels like Lamine grown. Like, seems like well above 6 feet tall, which is very strange for somebody who has this kind of dribbling capacity. And the stuff that he was trying today, he figured out in the second half that, I can just dribble this team anytime I want. And he was going crazy. So it's just strange when you get a player that's that tall, at least 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet tall. He's like a head of Rafinha. He's like way taller than him. So he's got to be at least 6 feet tall. And he's still able to do the dribbles. No. Again, normally you associate that with players who have like a lower center of gravity, but he's still able to complete that stuff, which is very impressive to me. I'm 6'1", so like trying to do all that little man stuff. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but he's built different. And I know people had that kind of complaint about Dembele at one point in time, where his dribbling capacity at Rennes and Dortmund, he had a growth spurt by the time he reached Barcelona, and people said he wasn't able to do the same things. But nah, Yamal he looks different on the ball. There are players who get the ball and they start gliding along the pitch, and the way that they touch the ball, the way that they move it, the way they're able to. I can't describe it because I have no idea what it is, but I've never been that good. But he's one of those. And I just wanted to give a quick word, not only for the goal, but for his play. Certainly in the second half, it was very impressive. So another quick look at the La Liga table. Barcelona back on top, only by a point though, after that loss that they had in midweek. Or was it midweek? Last weekend, after the cup. I forget when that game was, because certainly there would have been some Champions League stuff in midweek, so it must have been last weekend. This is the run. You see Real Madrid's run. They've won 5 in a row in the league, at least. That's the run in the Premier League that we don't see. If anybody had that of efficiency that wasn't Arsenal, they'd be right on their ass or above them. And Real Madrid have put in enough points over the last few match days that even though strife and turmoil, trials and tribulations, as they say at the black church. I don't know where we came up with trials and tribulations, but every black pastor says trials and tribulations. But nonetheless, they've gone through all of that, and they're just a point back. So very impressive for me. The table reads well for Real Madrid, considering everything that they're going through. And it's not as good reading for me as Barcelona, because I do think they're the better team, and I do think they've played better. But it's not showing in the points in the table, and that's troubling. So that's interesting. Nonetheless, one more thing. We might be able to get out of here but under 30 minutes, and I'd be very excited about that. Antonio Conte and Napoli lost to Juventus 3-0. I think that kind of puts Napoli's title race on ice, I would say. Also, what was the other game that I saw? Roma against AC Milan, 1-1. So AC Milan had a chance to kind of tighten or shorten the gap with Inter. They weren't able to do it. So again, we look at the table, and the league that normally gives us the best title race, at least in the last 5 years, ever since the kind of stranglehold that Juve used to have on Serie A. I don't know, man. It's kind of looking like Inter might run away with it. Certainly, if Milan keep dropping points, then Inter just got to hold steady, rock steady, rocking all night long. Who sung that song? You know when just random songs just come into your head? Rock steady. The Whispers? The Spinners? One of those old school bands. Let me not get into the musical tangent. But yeah, if Inter are able to just be steady, win their games, and do what they're supposed to do. Do you really trust Milan? Do you really trust Milan? Christian Pulisic, Leao, are we really trusting these, like, putting a good run together? I'm not sure. So I do want to get out of here. So let's do it. This has been Talking Tactics Daily. I thank you for paying attention. Leave some comments. Of the season in the Premier League, remind me, is there one that's been better than Dorgu? Also on the Manchester United front, am I being a bit too nitpicky with ideas, no space, and Michael Carrick teams seemingly having success against Arsenal and Manchester United? I'm dead inside. Against Arsenal and Manchester City, what happens when they play teams that aren't so worried about having the ball and doing things, concerned about restricting space. What happens in those instances? I'd be very curious to see what you guys think. In any event, it's been Andrew Tiluk. Remember to listen to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. All the links are in the description. And we will see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Power. Again, don't fuck with me. See you tomorrow. Peace, peace, peace.